I'm Andrew Huberman, and I'm a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford School of Medicine. Today we are discussing focus and concentration, and tools for improving your focus and concentration. The rationale for recording this episode is to provide people one location where they can go and quickly access the specific tools for increasing focus and concentration that are known to be the most powerful tools and the most up-to-date tools. So what I'm basically describing here is tools that in a very short amount of time will allow you to significantly increase your focus and concentration abilities. All of these have terrific science to support them. This is not woo science or hacks or just something that people came up with. This is all grounded in work from some of the best universities in the world, from excellent groups who've looked at underlying neural mechanisms and measured things with a lot of rigor, et cetera, et cetera. These tools are available to you. I highly recommend that you use them. Okay, let's talk about focus and concentration and how you can improve your focus and concentration using science-based protocols. Now, because today's episode is mainly focused on tools and not so much the underlying mechanisms, I'm mainly going to focus on what to do and when and how to do it. But I just want to take about 3 minutes and briefly describe a model, that is a visual image that you can put in your mind that will help you incorporate the tools that I'll provide and that generally will help you understand at a mechanistic level how focus and concentration work. So what I want you to imagine is an arrow. And an arrow, of course, has an arrowhead and it has the shaft of that arrow. And in the context of the neuroscience of focus and concentration, the neurochemical system that really represents the shaft of that arrow, right, the straight line, is epinephrine, also called adrenaline. The release of epinephrine overall increases energy. It increases alertness. It does not alone increase focus. Okay, so the reason I've assigned epinephrine, adrenaline, as the shaft of the arrow is that if focus is the arrow, there is no focus without epinephrine. So things, whether or not they're behavioral or psychological or supplements or drugs that increase epinephrine, allow focus to occur. They are necessary for focus, but they are not sufficient for focus. That is, they are required, but they are not enough to create focus. Now, the arrowhead on this metaphorical arrowhead that represents focus and concentration is going to be represented or related to the mechanisms of acetylcholine, a different neurochemical that also exists in the brain and body. In fact, in the body, it's responsible for the contraction and movement of your muscles. But today we're talking about acetylcholine not in that context, but rather in the context of its release within the brain. And the best way to think about it is it's like a spotlight. It highlights specific neurons, nerve cells that should be active, or more active, I should say, than the other neurons in the environment. And then, in order to have ongoing focus, we need another neurochemical. And it turns out that that third neurochemical is dopamine, a molecule often associated with pleasure and reward, but it's really the molecule of motivation. So here I want you to imagine in your mind an arrow with an arrowhead, think acetylcholine in the arrowhead, a shaft or a line behind that arrowhead, which is epinephrine, also called adrenaline, and then behind it, a sort of an engine that keeps that focus moving forward, right? Because we don't just want to be focused for a moment, we want to be able to focus for 10 minutes or for an hour, or maybe even for 2 hours. Turns out there's an optimal duration to focus. I'll teach you that in just a little bit. But these three neurochemicals together, acetylcholine, epinephrine, and dopamine, really allow you to get focused, to focus very precisely, and in fact, increasingly precisely over time, to really narrow and narrow and narrow your focus progressively within a single bout of focus, and to continue to do that and to be able to do that repeatedly whenever you want. If you want to think about tools of any kind to modify your biology or physiology in any way, whether or not it's for cognitive function, or you want to get better at exercising, or you want to build muscle, or you want to improve your hormones, you need to think and understand tools in the context of modulation and mediation. What do I mean by that? Well, it's quite simple, really. Mediation is how specific types of chemicals and cells and circuits and organs control very specific things in your brain and body. Whereas modulation is the ability of chemicals and cells and circuits to adjust how different things change, how different things work in your brain and body, but to do it more broadly. What do I mean by this? Let me give an example. For instance, I'm going to tell you now that one of the most important things to build and maintain your focus and concentration is to optimize your sleeping behavior. That is to get enough quality sleep, I would say 80% of the nights of your life. Sleep has been shown to relate to cognitive performance, physical performance, hormone output, and so many other things, including immune system function. What we can reliably say is that sleep modulates just about every process in your brain and body. So you have to get great sleep. There's simply no tool that's going to allow you to overcome chronic sleep deprivation and allow you to remain focused. No pill, no device, no supplement, no protocol whatsoever. There are tools to overcome one night or maybe 2 nights of sleep deprivation, and we'll talk about those. But at a fundamental level, we need to do the things that modulate our focus and attention in powerful ways, and sleep really is that thing. Okay, so assuming that you are sleeping well 80% of the nights of your life, or at least working on the various protocols and tools to sleep well and sufficiently long 80% of the nights of your life, and you are interested in additional tools that are sound-based in order to improve your ability to concentrate and focus, there are quality peer-reviewed studies supporting the idea that white noise or pink noise, and believe it or not, there is something called pink noise. It has to do with the specific frequencies of sound that are in the noise. Well, white noise and pink noise have been shown to not improve concentration per se, but to improve people's ability to transition into concentrated states. You can find white noise, pink noise, or brown noise and listen to it through headphones or in the room. 40 hertz binaural beats have been shown in a number of peer-reviewed studies to increase focus and concentration. It's been shown in multiple quality peer-reviewed studies that playing a pattern of sound waves to one ear, do-do-do-do-do, and the other ear, which is slightly offset in frequency, meaning not quite the same frequency, so more like do-do-do-do, that combination of frequencies played to the different ears actually get integrated within deep brain centers and can increase focus and concentration in part by increasing levels of the neurochemical dopamine and acetylcholine, which we talked about a little bit earlier in this arrow model of focus. So you have the option of either using binaural beats before, but not during your work, that is 40 hertz binaural beats, or 40 hertz binaural beats throughout your attempt to focus. You also have the option of not using binaural beats, but using white noise, pink noise, or brown noise. Again, there are a lot of zero-cost apps. You can find also white noise, pink noise, and brown noise on YouTube. Again, these are tools that really have been shown over and over in humans to allow people to focus with more depth and to decrease the transition time into focus. This is a really key point. A lot of people are challenged with getting into a mode of focus. None of us, however, should be expected to just sit down and drop directly into a state of focus. I think that's completely an unfair request of ourselves. I mean, for instance, you wouldn't expect yourself to go out on the track or go out for a run and not warm up. It's very important to understand mental work, focus, and concentration as requiring that warm up. What is that warm up? Well, you know what that warm up is. That warm up is the ramping up or the increase of epinephrine, adrenaline, acetylcholine, and dopamine. The question I often get is, how long should I try to focus? And the ideal duration is about 90 minutes. Not exactly 90 minutes, but we can reliably say 90 minutes or less. Everything from our sleep states, or the different stages of sleep, and our waking states is divided into these 90-minute cycles, or so-called ultradian cycles. So what I like to do is set a timer for 90 minutes. I acknowledge and accept the fact that under most conditions, unless I'm really pressed for a deadline, and I'm optimally caffeinated, etc., the first 5 to 10 minutes of that 90 minutes are a transition time. It's like the warm-up for focus, but I do include it in that 90 minutes. And then I really try and drop into doing focused mental work or learning of some sort. Again, this could be physical as well, motor skill learning. And it's very important that after a bout of focus, that you take at least 10 minutes and ideally as long as 30 minutes and go through what I call deliberate defocus. You really want to focus on somewhat menial tasks or things that really don't require a ton of your concentration. I can't emphasize this enough. Our ability to focus is not just related to what happens during the entry and movement through those focus bouts, but after those focus bouts, we really need to deliberately decompress. And of course, the ultimate decompress, the time in which we are not directing our thinking and our action, is during sleep. And so it's no wonder that deep long-lasting duration of not controlling where our mind is at is in fact the ultimate form of restoration, even if we have very intense dreams. I mentioned the topic of nutrition a little bit ago. And of course, nutrition is a complicated topic. In fact, one of the quickest ways to get yourself into a battle online is to say something definitive about nutrition. Whether or not you're a vegan, omnivore, vegetarian, carnivore, etc., the point is this. Your ability to focus is actually related to your blood glucose level. So to make this very simple, or as simple as I can for you, being fasted is great for focus and concentration, provided you're not thinking about food the entire time. And being fed is terrific for focus and concentration. It actually can improve neuronal function, provided that you didn't eat too much food. So one way to manage this is, if you're going to have a lunch, to make sure that you don't stuff yourself at lunch, that you're not overeating, and to not get quite so full that you push your nervous system into this parasympathetic mode and make it hard to focus in the afternoon. And just to make sure that I'm thorough, a fasted state to me would be a state in which you haven't ingested any calories, but may have ingested caffeine or maybe even a small amount of artificial sweetener or something like that, but really haven't ingested any significant number of calories in the previous 4 to 8 or maybe even 12 hours. And again, there's tremendous variation here depending on how long people have fasted, whether or not we're talking about the state right after people wake up, etc. Now I'd like to discuss some of the purely behavioral tools that quality peer-reviewed science say can improve focus and concentration significantly. At the beginning of today's episode, I talked about the study from Dr. Wendy Suzuki's lab, where they explored a 13-minute meditation done every day for a period of 8 weeks. An important part of such a meditation practice to improve concentration and focus is that you are continually refocusing back to that specific location and refocusing back on your breath. This is something that, again, is not often discussed. People think that if you do a meditation and you're supposed to concentrate on your breath, that if your mind drifts, that somehow you failed in that meditation. But actually, that's not the case. A huge component of improving your ability to focus and concentrate by way of neural plasticity, rewiring of the circuits for focus and concentration, is the repeated return to a state of focus from a state of non-focus or diminished focus. The study from Wendy Suzuki's lab also showed that people experience improvements in sleep and improvements in memory. So not just improvements in mood and reduction in stress and improvements in focus and concentration, but all these other positive benefits from just doing that 13-minute-a-day meditation practice. It's one that I've started to adopt and have felt tremendous benefit from, and that I encourage many of you to try as well. So today we've talked about a number of different tools and to some extent some mechanisms involved in concentration and focus. Really, the goal has been to provide you an understanding of the neurochemical systems and a little bit about the neural circuits that can allow you to achieve states of attention and focus.